Thought I'd come to the end of my journey on this path I chose, but controversies upsurged. When I rose, some opposed. So I had to scrutinize and unravel the sequel with vivid explications to reiterate that we are not equal. Ignoring maturity and the reality of this life, the shallow-minded believers uphold spirituality and refuse to strive. But I stay second to none, yet chose to beckon to one. Yet at times there were highs and lows. On this path I chose over my friends and my foes. Ain't gonna lie, I do get befuddled at the sight of unbelievers seemingly taking the highest positions in this hurdle. Then I stay steady, keeping my eyes on the prize, constantly bearing in mind that genuine success comes with a slow rise. My will tries to wrestle with my weakness, but it's ruthless, cause the strongest enemy of my flesh is my weakness.
So after graduating from KNUST, obviously the next thing was to pursue my national service, which is mandatory. I remember being quite anxious to know where I was going to be posted. I received my posting and I realized that I had been posted to South Tongue District Assembly, which is precisely at Sogakope in the Lower Volta region. From the onset, I was a bit down, just considering the fact that it was a new turf for me. But on the positive side, I was a bit desperate to know how it was going to be like and how the experience was going to be like. Back then, I remember telling my neighbor, Kukwa Graham, whose younger sister, as little as she was, she had so much wisdom. She actually encouraged me by telling me that it was another learning experience for me, and depending on how I looked at it, it was going to be a good challenge for me, in that even if I didn't get the opportunity to make new friends there, the loneliness there being there was going to inspire me to write a lot of new motivational content as far as my music goes. And in retrospect, I must say that she was right, because although I was introduced to a whole new turf and a whole new demographic, and I had lots of lonely days at that place, I found myself, as a result of the loneliness, it really inspired me to keep to myself and do a lot of writing.
He was my neighbor, I think. His house was 3 houses away from my dad's house. I had brothers, and Fifi was the only kid, so most of the time we would go play at his house, actually on his basketball court, because he was so obsessed with basketball at that time. I remember even for one of his birthdays, I did this and one book thing for him.
That crave for music gravitated towards visual arts, and he began drawing, and his drawing and artwork was so unique that strangely enough, one of the days report card came, and when I saw it, the remark the teacher gave was that his art takes interest in things. He must be encouraged. But in those days we were like, no, he should stick to his books the more. But that is his field. And then we realized that it was an innate thing, something that was inborn or is inborn. So he couldn't, no matter how hard we tried, that was his field. A passion for music, a passion for the art industry. Julian has a gift of writing, and he's so endowed that he does it with ease. He writes, and when you listen to him, as he begins to declare the things he's written, you see the wisdom, you see the reality of life, no hypocrisy, no pretense, and he's so down to earth, and it's about life in general. I believe this is God ordained and God given.
And during my national service, I must say, was the period of time when I wrote a lot of my my best lyrics and my best content. Talking about Monologue of Thoughts, Lord, I Need You, the sequel, The Glory, Shadows in Your Heart, Never Alone, all those timeless pieces, those good content, I wrote them there. And I must say that it was worth it. It was actually worth it. Yeah. The creative process for This Path I Chose Volume 2 or Chapter 2, which most people don't seem to have realized I released, was quite of an undulating journey. It was a roller coaster. It wasn't as fluid as that of the period of time when I was writing This Path I Chose Chapter 1, the opening chapter of my musical journey. And I believe it was because I wasn't situated at that time in Accra. Obviously, I was by then pursuing my national service, so whenever I had the opportunity to come to Accra and spend time with my family, I took advantage of that time to record at the studio at my sound engineer's place by name Tete Odampton, also known as Wagsy. So in that regard, the recording process for This Path I Chose Chapter 2 wasn't that fluid. And also, I was releasing them in singles. As a result of that, I'm sure that's the reason why people didn't really take note of the fact that This Path I Chose Chapter 2 had even been released. Yeah, pretty much. So that was it for This Path I Chose Chapter 2. One thing that I wouldn't say is much of a regret, but one particular project that was meant to be on This Path I Chose Chapter 2 was The Chronicles of National Suffering. That song was going to be about my experience during my national service. I've always been someone who, at every point and period in time, the time and space where I find myself, I write what I'm going through around that time. Unfortunately, some way, somehow, the creative process of that particular project, being Chronicles of National Suffering, was sort of truncated, and that sort of put a toll on the writing. Hence the reason why I couldn't complete it. But yeah, it was going to be a very dope project. However, I managed to still complete This Path I Chose Chapter 2, and it turned out great. Most of the songs that were on that project were actually not originally produced. They were mostly cover songs, instrumentals, some of which I had downloaded from the internet and used for the songs that were on that project. Yeah, for the most part.
Sometimes it's so meticulous with a pen, and sometimes I read it and I feel it's too hard, and sometimes I feel that people might read it and perceive differently, so I have to come in and advise him, because I believe that in our cultural setting there are certain things people will not understand, certain things that people take it differently. So I believe that in writing, he should bring culture into perspective and factor that in. So I need to advise him sometimes, and I do.
Met Julian in 2013, I think. Yeah, it was 2013. I just finished school. And it's interesting how I met him. So at that point, I was getting into GH Urban Gospel, and I heard a couple of songs. Reverb Nation or something, or a SoundCloud, I don't know, Reverb Nation or SoundCloud, either of them. And so I was listening, and I chanced on his music. I was blown away, honestly, I was blown away. So immediately I shared it with some of my friends, because it was different. There were a few people who I believe were different and had set themselves apart, and Julian was one of them. So like I said, I shared with my friends, and then I hit him up. Because at that point I'd also started writing music. So I was like, Charlie, who is this dude? And so I hit him up, I sent him a message. I'm like, Charlie, I'm a big fan. And at that point too, I was writing myself, and I actually looked up to him. So I sent him some of the tracks I've written, some of the stuff I've written, and he liked it. And then so it was one time I was just at home, and then I got a message from him, and this was before he moved to Canada, saying that he would like for us to work on a project. And I was very humbled, because this is someone like you look up to. I always tell my friends, and those who know me well know that. And when I started writing this, it's actually just a handful of people that inspired me, and Julian was one of them. Even the first time I ever entered like a proper studio to record music was because of Julian. He's had a profound impact on me as a person. Even though I've not come up with any stuff as a musician, but the wealth of knowledge that I've gained working with him has been incredible. I've co-written with him, and he's introduced me to other people, who've co-written on projects, and that's one thing I admire about him. If he feels like this song needs a certain direction, and this guy is good at it, he'll hit you up like, let's work on this together, and juggle with ideas, and finally, the song to where it has to be creative. So he hit me up. We met, wrote, I think Till Is Gone, and then I heard Destined for Greatness. We also worked on Destined for Greatness. It was good vibes, good songs.
TDIGG and I met in 2013. I was through a friend of mine, Gershon, password, PWD. Yes. And it was his mixtape. So Gershon got hooked on his mixtape and introduced me to the mixtape. And both of us loved it. And one afternoon, I don't remember if it was a weekend or a weekday, I got a call from Gershon that I should come over to his house, and TDIGG, the guy that both of us were like crazy over his mixtape, is coming over. And I mean, obviously, who wouldn't take the opportunity to like to meet their celeb, their star? So I rushed over to Gershon's place, and TDIGG came. I mean, both of us were crazy diehard fans of TDIGG. So it was a great privilege to be finally meeting the guy that we were hooked on his mixtape in person. So TDIGG comes over, and we had to comport ourselves not to show the excitement of meeting our star. But he came over, and then we were working on the song, and then we helped out with a few ideas, and we actually enjoyed it. Like, it was a vibe. Like, it was just like creatives meeting each other, having similar passions and interests. And then TDIGG mentioned about a song called Destined for Greatness, and he wanted us to also work on it together. So that meeting was at my place, and then he came over, and then we were just sharing ideas, we worked on it, and we were both excited about it because we liked the outcome of it. And he mentioned he wanted me to be on the song with him. And for me, that was like really huge because, I mean, I hadn't really professionally recorded before. Like, I had done a few recordings here and there, but I did it on the phone or a friend's studio, just putting ideas down, but I never really pursued working on them fully or exploring the potential. So the day comes for the recording. I think I've forgotten the area. We met up at a studio, Laboni. So it was in Laboni. We met up in Laboni, and then we got to the recording. And it being my first time, I was very nervous. Having the likes of TDIGG, who was another musician I was crazy over. Having the likes of Eddie, Edward there, having the likes of KC, who was like crazy. Like, I was nervous. And Gershon was there, like all my friends were there. So I remember in the studio, we had a few friends who formed the choir. In the studio when recording, my nerves were kicking in, so at a point, TDIGG actually had to sack everyone out of the studio. And they gave me a pep talk. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready. So Destined for Greatness is actually like my first ever professional recording. When the song came out, it was really great. And then Deep had to go back to Canada. And when he came back 2014, and then we shot the video. And Destined for Greatness, that was my first ever music video that I was in. So yeah, basically that's how the journey began. From listening to him, being introduced to his mixtape, this path I chose, through a friend Gershon, then to actually finally meeting him in person, then to working on a song together, and then being in a music video. I mean, like, it was a dream come true. But that's how it began.
I met Julian about 6 years ago, right out of high school. I was in the area with a friend called Kenneth, so I went to play basketball. And he approached us really randomly, and it was really nice of him because people don't really do that these days. I think it speaks to who he is. He's a very approachable person, very nice. The first time I encountered his music was on TV. I think it was Destined for Greatness. That was Hughes, Robin Hughes, yeah. So it was really good. I was like, I know this guy. Somehow we became brotherly. Became like my big brother.
So the way Deep and I met, to me, is an example of how God actually listens to and answers our prayers. That's how it all happened. In 2009, a mutual friend, Richard Barry Kusi, what's up, man? I hope you're good. Introduced us. So he heard me do a freestyle in church to a particular song, and he's like, oh, you're pretty good. I know another dude that's also into urban gospel. I think I'm gonna let you talk to him. So he hit us up, or he put us together. He became the connect. That's how come I got in touch with Deep. So I spoke to him over the phone. We talked, and he was telling me what he was doing, and I told him what I was doing, and that was it. But basically, that was all. We didn't really talk too much, go in too deep. We just talked, and that was it. So fast forward 2012, as part of my resolution, I was just talking to the Father, and I'm like, Lord, I really have to record this year. I really have to put something out this year, because previously I've just been spitting on stage and in other places, but I hadn't really put anything out there yet. So I said, Lord, I need to put something out there this year, and it has to be this year, so I'm trusting you for that. So the year begins, everything's going on normal. Sometime in the middle of the year, Deep just hits me up out of nowhere, and he's like, I'm putting out a cypher, dude, you want to be on it? And I'm like, yeah, man, hit me up. Let's do this. So he sends me the beat, and I write to it. We go to the studio, fast forward, we record, and we ended up shooting a video for it too, you know? So we didn't just record, we shot a video for it, and that was deep too, because I felt that God actually didn't just do one thing, he did something I wasn't even asking for, you know, and that was deep. But right after that, we actually got to link up, and that cypher was pretty dope for me too, because they opened me up to link up to some other guys in the urban gospel scene in Ghana.
So how I met Julian, or Too Deep, was through my very good friend OBJ, and OBJ introduced me to Julian way back in, it's about eight years ago. That was about 2012 in KNUST. He introduced me to his music, and I mean, this dude was really deep, you know, just as his name says. It was really deep with his lyrics, with his words. The music, you know, we all just love the music. Spoke a lot about life, spoke a lot about the Christian walk.
So the first time I actually came into contact with Julian's music was a decade ago. I was just on Facebook during that time, and I chanced into his Facebook page. Then I listened. The first song I listened to was a Glory freestyle. I liked the song. I liked the whole attitude and the vibe to it. It just gave me this. It just had, like, in summary, it was more like, oh, you know, we be Christians. We're not gonna sell out. We won't sign the record deal because we want to do our own music and all that. Yeah, and moving on, so I liked his content, I liked his lyrical composition, so I went ahead and started downloading other songs that he had done with other people, and so I think then I actually downloaded This Path I Choose. I think we did one or two, and so I just had like a whole library of songs that were composed by Julian and his friends, and I would play them back to back every day. So I remember when I was in school, when I was in college, there was this ministry on campus called Soul City, and they were organizing an event. And when I got the handbill, I saw Julian and OPJ and the other guys from this were going to the house, like, alright, let's do this. You know, it's like going to a concert that you could actually sing every song. Like every song you could actually. So I went for the concert. So that was the first time I met them. I met Julian the first time. We talked. We took pictures. He actually signed an autograph for me. I mean, yeah, it was more like Charlie meeting Drake or meeting Jay-Z or something, you know. Yeah, and I think fast forward,
I've been a fan of Julian's music. I've liked his songs, all the songs that he did.
We met back in 2007 through a mutual friend called Sharon. They both went to Motown, and Sharon was a very good friend of mine. And then I met Julian through Sharon, and we've been friends since then. And now we're like brothers. We talk about our struggles, we talk about our issues, and I've spoken to Julian about some of my struggles, some of my issues. Some of them quite intimate, and some. He's encouraged me, he's prayed with me, he's been there for me, and he encourages me, he wishes me well. So we met in 2007, and a couple years down the line, even though back in KNUST I was an engineering student, I loved arts and graphic designing and stuff like that. So I happened to chance upon an artwork, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I believe one of them was Julian and his group. They were called the God's Urban Disciples. And I thought the artwork was really cool. And then the other artwork I saw, I believe, was his mixtape, his solo mixtape, The Path I Chose. And then I was like, oh man, this is really cool. So I wondered. I had a friend of mine, Gilbert Arthur. I was like, oh dude, what's this about? And I think he said, oh yeah, Julian they're in the same class, or and he's into Christian rap. And I was like, oh man, me too. I love Christian rap and contemporary music, and contemporary Christian music, and stuff like that. So at the time we were coming up with a magazine, so I was like, oh, this could be a good way to give Julian some exposure, So we actually interviewed him, and then it was gonna be in the magazine. So that's how we kind of started getting closer. Through the interview, I got to know him better, got to know him more, and then it went on from there. He launched his album. I went there to support him. Well, he and the group launched the album. I went to support him, and I bought the CD, and I still have the CD till today. And I resonate with the songs, and the message in the song. You can tell it's authentic, and he's been a good brother.
Yeah, so at some point during my national service, unfortunately I felt ill. Due to that reason, I was allowed to be away and seek medical treatment for about a month or two. Some way, somehow, I must say that worked out together for my good. During that same period of time, somewhere around January 2012, was when we launched the God's Urban Disciples debut album. It was during that same period I took the opportunity for us to have rehearsals and all that. So eventually we launched the album, Time Is Up, and it was a very great experience. We actually set the pace in that regard. Back in those days, we actually performed the songs during the album launch live. I'm talking live rapping, live instrumentation. The instrumentalists jammed everything. We performed the songs we did during the album launch back to back live, and it was something that we had used to set the pace. We had set the trend back then in 2012. I remember we hosted the likes of my brother OBJ, King's Kid, Preachers as the guest performing artist. Yeah, it was a very great experience, and I must say it was worthwhile. Looking back, it sort of paved the way for the likes of the younger generation who are now coming up on the urban gospel scene. And yeah, those were really fun times, man. I miss my brothers, KC Owusu, Jay Shady, yeah, and man like the chorus, man. Those were really fun times.
And I get a call from Julian that now he's too deep, and he wanted me to help him shoot a music video for a song called Glory. And at that time, I think I was also done. I was working at Foresight at that time, and I was happy because I just wanted to shoot. And because he was my senior and the relationship that we had, he took me to this abandoned airplane spot that I fell in love. Because I remember the first, I was shouting because I knew what I could do at that point. So we shot the video. We really didn't have nothing at that time. I think it was a camera, me, Julian, and this guy called Kwame Yabua. And then we just handheld and run and gun with it, you know. So shot the video came out good. And then Julian stopped doing music. I've come this far by faith, not by hate. He just stopped doing music. I think he dropped an album. After that, everybody thought gospel, Ghana gospel has some new phases and some fresh lyrics. And this guy just vanished. Why did you vanish? One thing I like about Julian's music is that for some reason it always comes from a personal place. Even when we're back in Ashimota's way. The songs that they made were songs that we could relate to. And even after when he was done, when we did The Glory and all of them songs, it was like songs that I could relate, songs that I understood, songs that I hear white people make. But he made it local. Yo, bro, the guy, My Glory was rock drums. Like, you know, but because that type of creativity to me is missing in the industry. And if one person will come back and start it, I believe that just like how the GH music, GH gospel music industry trailblazed it. You people might not agree, but me, I think he did around that time.
So after we launched the group album, being God's Urban Disciples album, I remember the group in a way started dissolving because we were growing apart, right? Nothing bad really happened. It's just the fact that we were growing apart. Life was happening. I had to move to Canada after my national service to pursue my studies. KC Owusu started delving into his solo projects. Likewise, Jay Shady. And yeah, obviously back then, before we even launched the group album, I had also already released my first solo project, which was This Path I Chose, the opening chapter. Yeah.
Basically, I got to know Too Deep way back in high school. That was when initially I got into the whole idea of doing urban gospel, Christian rap music in general. I was basically lost, but then when I listened to his music, I knew that definitely this is what I wanted to do long term. So I reached out to him after several attempts at, reaching other urban gospel, artists and rappers, and had no reply whatsoever. We talked, we became close friends. We actually even exchanged more intimate, things about each other, more, if you'd have secrets about each other. And then, we bonded, we became brothers, we were just more than the music per se and all of that. And then it's been uphill from then. Yeah, so flashback, I remember when I finally got around doing my first single, which was Desperation, way back in like 2015. And so I sent it to him. I sent him like a short snippet of the song before I happened to drop the music, and then he gave me good feedback. He told me he liked the song, which definitely was a confident booster back in the day, because I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know my left from right, and so he really supported me, and I got that confidence from them to actually keep pursuing urban gospel. I know that I was on the right track.
from Ghana to when I moved to Canada for school. And I think 3 years or something later, Fifi comes to Canada as well. Try to link up a few times, but we managed to get it through maybe 1 or 2. Walked around Kensington Market, showed them like a few of my favorite spots downtown Toronto. It was really cool, man, really cool. I still have that dope jacket you got me, by the way.
And a few years down the line, I moved to Canada, and then about a year later, he also moved to Canada for a little while, for a few years, and then we lived. Canada is a very big country, so he lived quite far. I went to visit him one time, and we chat briefly, and just to see how we're doing, and stuff like that. And we were communicating every now and then, checking on each other and things like that.
He went to Canada, and one of my friends went there as well, and somehow I managed to connect the both of them, and they've been making really good music together.
The first time me and Julian ever met and recorded anything together was Beautiful Struggle, which was, one of his singles that he put out, I think it was 2015, I'm not sure, 2015, 2014, I think we recorded Beautiful Struggle together. And even the story behind that, of how the whole body of work, the project came together, was like so fascinating. I met Julian, we started talking, in 2013 through a mutual friend. We used to talk on a Google Hangout, and just, talk and, get to know each other on a brotherly level. And, from there, we realized both of us, were artists. Like we wrote music. So it was only right that we connected eventually and recorded together. And, he came down to visit me in my city where I was living at the time. And, we just went to the studio, heard the beat. That was the first time Julian and I heard the beat. That was the first time I was hearing the beat. Julian wrote some stuff to the beat. And initially I was like really struggling to figure out what to do on the song. So I told Julian, hey, you know what, go back and, go back to your city, and then I will figure everything out, So I went back to the studio, and then, the words just started flowing, and that was it. That was history. At the same time, at that point in our lives, both of us were going through similar things. So it was very, 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 very deep song for both of us. So yeah, and since then we've been in touch. We've been in touch with each other, and we've kept each other in our prayers through our good times, bad times, all the struggles, everything. So I think I'm very, 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 very excited and looking forward to this project. I think the first time I heard, because I was not too familiar with the gospel rap scene in Ghana. I wasn't too familiar with it. So when I heard the first project I heard was on this path I chose. I think it was Nobody Knows. I think that was featuring Jazzy Sammy, and I was like, man, this is tight, And then I heard, I think off the next project I heard Shadows in Your Heart, Shadows, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed how honest and transparent that project was, and very relatable to what I was going through at the time, very relatable to things that I was even going to experience later. Some I couldn't relate to at the time, but later when I experienced it and I went back and played the song, it spoke to me. And that's, that's a touch of timelessness that those projects have, And I'm not just saying this because he's my friend and he's my brother, but honestly, as an artist, I really appreciate his craft.
I met Julian a couple years back in Toronto. I remember we were on the same bus, and as we got off the bus, I realized that we were attending the same college at the same time, but not doing the same program. We were both doing different programs. And we had a really great conversation. And from that moment, I realized that this young man has something special to offer. But it so happens as we exchange contacts and we remain in contact with each other, it so happened that he he ended up visiting my home to share his music that we talked about, and I was anxious. I wanted to hear exactly what he has to offer. And it was quite interesting because after listening to that song, Destined for Greatness, it spoke to me in a very special way. And it just shows how special this young man is when it comes to his music. Destined for Greatness, literally, it spoke to me in a very, very special way. And after hearing that song, I was able to connect it with something that I've learned over the couple of years, which is learning to create new possibilities for life. And when you do that, you are definitely destined for greatness. That song really spoke to me. It became the song that I wanted to hear every morning I got up. It was more like a jingle, like a lingo in my head, destined for greatness. And I continue to listen to that song because it continued to inspire me in such a special way. And I know that song did touch a lot of people. We continue to have conversation on a regular basis. Julian asked me to do a photo shoot, and that was for the cover, Destined for Greatness. I was more than excited to be a part of this project, even though my photography was not that on point, but I wanted to make sure that we do something great. So we end up having this meeting and we talk about the entire shoot and what you wanted in the shoot. So eventually we went downtown Toronto and we did the photo shoot, and that's how he was able to use that picture. I was not too sure if I was ready for the task, but I was up for the challenge, and we ended up doing the photo shoot in downtown Toronto, and it ended up being a really great shoot. I loved the photos. I know he did as well.
I have known Julian since he was very young. I would say Julian is like the little brother I never had. He's very humble, loving, down-to-earth, God-fearing person. And Julian's growing desire to spread the word of God through his music started at a very young age. I had the opportunity to get to know Julian better when Julian moved to Canada to pursue his studies. I remember Julian would come to our house on several occasions, and when it was time for him to go, we wouldn't let him go because we enjoyed his music so much. Julian is someone who is very, very talented in his music, and you can tell that that is a rare gift. God has really blessed him, has given him the ability to spread the word of God through his music, and he does that very well.
He has ideas that brings him into doing things that goes beyond the norm. He exhibits and executes with perfection. He's very much particular about details, and it takes him a lot of time to be able to come up with whatever you ask him to do. And sometimes it's quite annoying, but I think after he's been delivered, he comes out perfectly with an excellent job. I've seen him grow up, and I've seen a man who is very transparent, is very honest with his life, with everything. He is not the one who wants to hide even his weaknesses. He wants to bring it bare and say the way it is. He is easy to work with. He will easily accept his fault and easily apologize. But when he's right, he's so strong with it that he will never ever want to back out because he knows he's right. And I believe that it's an intuition he has, and that intuition has brought him this far with his relationship with people and how he relates with them.
After all that, Deep and I became really good friends. That was when I actually got to know him for who he was. You know, so aside his music, we became friends, and I understood who he was. If you ask me one word that epitomizes who Deep is. I will say realness. Dude is real to the core. I mean, he's one of the realest people you've ever met. I mean, he's a dope MC, but he's just real. He's down to earth, but he's real. And I think he brings that to his music. When you listen to Deep and the art that he chooses to put out there, you know that is deep. You know that is real. He's coming from a place of realness, and it's not pretense, it's just who he is. You know, so I think that's really deep. And that's one aspect I really like about him.
Too Deep's one of the realest people I ever met, you know, and he speaks facts, you know, like real talk, no gimmicks, no playing around, you know, straight up facts, reality check. And I really appreciate you, you know, because you're a real, true guy, you know, true G.
Julian is a genuine guy. Yeah, Fifi's a very genuine guy. Whenever I find myself in Ghana and, you know, he makes himself available for whatever, whenever. I'm really grateful to know him.
One thing I want to say about Fifi is that he's a very genuine individual, and he's very resilient. You know, I've known him for over 15 years now. We actually went to the same high school together. He's more than a friend, more than a brother. I would say that he's someone that you can actually count on.
I got to know Julian through a very good friend of mine called Gershon. He told me about his friend, how he's such a great artist, he has a heart for God, and you know, he's working on a few projects music-wise. And then he asked me if I was interested in working with them on the project. And I also have an interest in music, and you know, I also love the things of God, and I'm really excited about young people who have a heart for God. So I said yes, so I agreed, and then that's how I met Julian. So we worked on Destined for Greatness. I think this was in 2013 or 2014. I can't quite remember, but it was some years ago. And it was a very great initiative, and a lot of people came together, you know, to make sure we achieve the vision that Julian was trying to, you know, put out there. It was really great. So I was one of the vocalists, and yeah, it was a really, really great project. Yeah, so we did a video. There's a video to the song, and it was great. It was really fun. I had never done anything like that, you know, so I was like, oh God, how's this going to be? But it was just, we were all just, you know, free. I'd say working on the video was the most fun thing ever. It was great. So yeah, one thing I noticed about Julian was that he's very down to earth, very free. That was my first time meeting him actually, and we bonded. Like he's so easy to get along with, you know. He makes everyone feel like themselves. It was very easy to work with him. He's also a very funny person, and that's something that just naturally comes out. He's very funny, very hilarious, very down to earth, very nice guy. Yeah, so we worked on that. We worked on Destined for Greatness together with some other people, and it turned out amazing. The turnout was really great. And after Destined for Greatness, you know, we all went our separate ways, but I stayed in touch with Julian. He moved to Canada.
So I moved to Canada to pursue my studies. Canada was a whole new turf. By the grace of God, I had traveled a few times prior to moving to Canada to pursue my studies, but I hadn't really lived there. So it was a totally different experience for me. And living abroad, starting from like the changes in the seasons to the life abroad is just a whole new experience, especially if you didn't grow up there and you don't really have friends with whom you grew up, you don't really have family. Loneliness could set in at some point, and yeah, in a way, there's still a bit of racism there. Racism is still alive. It's just being concealed and a whole lot of things. I experienced a rough share of that personally. A time came when loneliness set in, which led to depression and a whole lot of things. And then I later even heard my mom's health was deteriorating back home due to her kidney failure and all that. I say my faith got scarred. Yeah, there came a toll on my mental health. Not necessarily that I was being deluded, I was in delusion, but I'm talking depression.
When Julian was here in Canada, Julian had a few setbacks, including his mom's failing health. And Julian did not let those setbacks, affect him. It did not affect his relationship with God. It did not affect his relationship with people. He pressed on and he depended on God solely for strength and empowerment. And he has acknowledged that God brought those challenges in his life to make him a better person and to make him what he is now. He has indeed destined this great man for greatness.
He's very, very resilient. I mean, he's been through a lot of struggles in his life, pertaining to his mother's illness.
And then you went quiet for a very long time. Obviously, life happens. I think he moved over to the States or Canada or something like that. I believe it was Canada. And he was out there for some time. I was also here doing life, getting married, having kids. And then years later, we linked up again. And it was like nothing happened. It was like the brotherhood was real, it was true. And since then, we've kind of developed a very good relationship with Julian, the whole family, mum, dad, God rest her soul, mum. It was quite interesting. I came to Ghana to bury my mum. And during this time, thank you, Julian, for being a brother and being around and, your support and everything. And at that time, I believe that mum was also on dialysis at the moment. Things weren't going so great, but we were praying and hoping that God will do a miracle. And sadly, or rejoicefully, mum was also taken into glory. And during that time, the strength you showed, bro, and even the advice you were giving me through my ordeal, bro, it just goes to show what kind of relationship and what kind of brotherhood, we have, man. Shout out to Dad as well. Obviously his strength, the courage that he's shown through that whole process. And really and truly, like, Julian is my brother, man.
I remember at some point when I got to the very depth of my depression, I would communicate with my team back home, team coach, comrades with a contrite heart. I would communicate with them and tell them that I was considering taking a break off the music thing. And they were so upset with me, they didn't understand, because obviously they didn't know the depth of the struggles I was going through. At the same time, me being too deep, I would always try to keep it real. Like I would always try to keep it real by putting my life literally on the lines that I write musically or sonically in my sounds. And that was what birthed Beautiful Struggle when I met with my brother X.E. Clay, because I believe he was also sharing in the same plight and going through those struggles. And this, I believe, comes with living abroad. There's so many challenges, so many struggles, so many setbacks, ups and downs that, are untold. And the worst part was, I really had a terrible experience, precisely with the Ghanaian community in the diaspora. They are so discouraging. They are so mediocre. Unfortunately, I don't mean to throw shade at my own people, but I almost started having a strong infuriation for my own people. I almost started having a strong dislike for my people. Unfortunately, it's almost like in the diaspora, your own Ghanaian people, when you're going through struggles, they rather become happy and they push you down more when you're going through struggles. They don't encourage you, they don't support you. It's rather unfortunate, but people of other descents like Nigerians or Nigerians, they'll be there for you. But as you know, the Bible even says that a prophet is not regarded in his own home. So you don't expect to be validated by your own people. The scripture is really real. Anyone who has lived abroad before or who is in the diaspora can share with me in this plight. Yeah, I really went through a lot. My faith was scarred. I almost walked away from God. I almost walked away from my faith. But yeah, thank God that everything works out together for his good. Yeah, around that time, I was going through so much. Then I reconnected with one of my friends. She was actually my neighbor, Kukwa Graham, from back home in Ghana. She was also in Toronto by then, but she was living downtown. She sat me down during one of our hangouts, and she explained to me that one of the aspects of what I was dealing with, which was actually depression, also had to do with quarter-life crisis, and she had also gone through a similar experience. So it made more sense to me. It made so much sense to me, but it still didn't take away from the fact that the depression thing was still lingering. And during that time, anyone who has experienced this before would know and admit that during that period of time, you have a lot of self-doubt. You start wondering, like, although by the grace of God, you've achieved a bit of things in life, you start to second guess yourself. You start to feel like throwing in the towel, giving up. You feel like everything you're doing is worthless. I don't know if that's a spiritual attack on the mind or subconscious mind or whatever, but it is not a good feeling at all. And it felt like walls came crashing and tumbling down on me in life. I won't lie, at some point I even had suicidal thoughts. It was crazy, man. It was crazy, and I don't even wish that for my worst enemy, because it's a very terrible experience, trust me. Yeah, so I missed the spiritual attacks which set in and the decline in my spiritual life. I must say all those things led me to do some inappropriate things, which I'm not proud of. However, although I was going through those setbacks, I never allowed them to affect my academic life. So by the grace of God, I was really performing well academically. I remember at some point I was even awarded a scholarship by the dean of my campus, the Nate Horowitz Scholarship for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. I was actually one of the only international students who was awarded that scholarship, to the glory of God.
The Nate Horowitz Scholarship, presented by Nate Horowitz, to Julianne Macy.
And I moved to America, and we still kept in touch. You know, we would still talk here and there. We still tried to keep in touch. And one thing that I noticed about him also when we moved away is that he's very resilient, you know, and he still had that passion for God. He still had the passion for music, which is something that has been very consistent with him throughout the years. So yeah, Julian has been, even though we don't talk as much or we don't really keep in touch as much, I'd say he's one of the few people that I know that, you know, are very consistent with what they believe in or what they want to do for God.
Judy had to travel to study in Canada, yeah. So I think he was supposed to even release this part I chose three, yes. This part I chose 3. So, and I was supposed to be on that one again. I had to do an intro for him, so we spoke about that. I recorded it, sent him, you know, meticulous, too deep. Yeah, I always had some corrections here and there to do. And then we are both professionals, so, you know, we're always trying to come out with something unique, not just unique, but good. So, a few setbacks here and there. TDIGG was out there and I was here. At some point, I even had to travel. So we were talking, we up and down. But this part I chose 3, I mean, I wouldn't say it was not released. It was not released. Let's take it like life sometimes has to dictate how we do things, and we can't go off that. as natural human beings as we are.
Later on, he was in Canada and he was working on another project and he wanted me to be on it with him. I was supposed to sing a fancy hook, but life was getting crazy back in Ghana for me. So we were communicating, and I know that it was also happening the same for him, because we were communicating on this and that, but issues just kept coming through on my end. Like, it was a crazy time for me within the years of 2016 and 17. It was a crazy year for me, but we still kept in touch.
At some point, whilst Fifi was in Canada, we lost touch of each other, and later we picked up from where we left off. So when we picked up from where we left off, I realized Fifi was going through a lot psychologically and emotionally, coupled with his mom's health condition back home. That crushed him so much, and he got him to the point where he wanted to even quit music, and he felt that wasn't therapeutic anymore. Despite the fact that he was dealing with all these things, he was always there for his friends, and he's the one person who always motivates people around him. If you know Fifi very well, you know that he's a natural leader, and even though he was going through all these things, he was always strong for his friends.
I've known Julian for 8 years, and through these years, I am aware of some of the things that Julian has been through as an individual, and some years back. So I believe that through these years, Julian has built himself as an individual and as a child of God, and I believe that this forthcoming project is going to be awesome. I actually see it as a project that is going to encapsulate his whole experience, his rise and falls, many things that he's been through, reason why, he hasn't churned out music for a couple of years, and this project is going to touch many lives. I strongly believe it, because I am of the firm belief that as an artist, your experiences make you, and you can't give what you don't have. You can't sing about what you haven't experienced.
I believe, I think biblically we talk about Jesus, and Jesus was in the temple at the age of 12, and the Bible doesn't really talk about him ever again until later on in his life. And a lot of people question, they say, oh, what happened during those years? I believe that the experience that he needed to execute the work, the earthly duty he was tasked with, is exactly what he was able to execute. So the silence that my brother Julian was with from 2010 all the way till when he surfaced again, I believe that time was an opportunity to gain experience and build. And I know that right now you have a vocabulary of experience, and I can't wait to hear what you have on the new project, bro. I cannot wait to hear all the stories, all the things that I know of and the things that I don't know of, the things that you're about to reveal to the world, man. And I just can't wait, bro, for you to release this project out to the world. And bro, I genuinely love you, man. You're my bro, and wherever you need me, bro, I'm there, man. I'm there 100%. Keep your head up, bro.
Personally, I've always wondered why it took him so long to release stuff, but then I know he was going through a lot, and that's one thing that I'm very appreciative of, because it means that this project is going to be loaded with good stuff, because obviously as a writer, the experiences you go through inspire your writing and your music.
I made a lot of good friends as well. Gifty Kwafio, Fadzai, my brother from Zimbabwe, Stu Escalone, whom I met on campus at Centennial College. I recorded 2 songs with Stu Escalone. Yeah, his real name was Stewart Escalone. He was a very great guy. He was a Christian brother. He encouraged me in so many ways. Another good friend I made in class was Paulo Ferrios. He was also his background was Filipino. Yeah, but he was a very great guy. He was a good brother to me as well. He was also Christian. Yeah, I made a few other friends in class, and it was a great experience. I remember crossing paths sometime on the subway with an old pastor friend of my dad. He was like a family friend, Pastor Fred Berkum. Yeah, I met with him. I got to visit his family a few times. We used to pray together here and there during my setbacks and my challenging times. I also met the likes of Kojo Easy Dante. Yeah, he was a recording artist from Ghana as well. He was based in the city of Hamilton. I remember he gave me an opportunity to open a few shows for him here and there. We're supposed to play some gigs and some sets together. Unfortunately, I couldn't show up for those gigs and sets because I was going through so much. I was battling a lot of depression, yeah, a lot of setbacks. But yeah, all these people, some way, somehow, were a blessing in my life. I won't forget my sister, Gifty Kwafio, who was there for me most of the times. Oh, and thanks to a mutual friend who's also a brother, Elliot Kakari, who introduced me to his friend from Ghana as well, Emmanuel Claye, Exi Claye, now known as Bubune. We kept in touch, we linked up, and we even got to collaborate on a project, Beautiful Struggle. But for the most part, Claye and I were like really true brothers. Every time I communicated with him, it was very edifying for my soul. Yeah.
The first time I met Julian was in Toronto. He was my contact to get a t-shirt that I really wanted that was in Ghana, and he happened to have it in Toronto. Although Julian has been through lots of ups and downs, I find his personality, his sense of humor keeps him up and the people around him. The first song I heard of Julian was Beautiful Struggle. When I first heard it, I was in love with it. I had all my friends listen to it, playing it non-stop. I knew every single word for Beautiful Struggle. I really liked it a lot. What I liked about it was the truth that came from the words that was being spoken through the music, and it just resonated a lot. It was a really nice song, and I felt like it came from a place of transparency, and that's what made the song really pretty. While Julian was in Canada, he went through a lot of setbacks and lots of downs and ups, and throughout the whole experience he was very optimistic, which I truly respect a lot, because it's hard to be optimistic when things are just being thrown at you. Throughout the experience, he was so adamant that one day that this would be a testimony to show other people who may be going through something similar or the same, and I really respect that attitude. For someone to have such a positive attitude when they're going through something deep is incredible. It's one thing to know the Word of God when everything is good, but it's another thing to know the Word of God when you're going through some stuff.
I met him the first time at Centennial College. We both went there. He was in the design program and I was doing writing. And I was in the library one day working on my homework, and I had a sticker on my laptop that said Humble Beast. And if you know what Humble Beast is, that was, or still is, a Christian record label. So when he saw that, he right away, he just noticed it, and he came over and he said, "Hey, I saw on your computer, it said Humble Beast. Are you part of that, or how do you know about them?" And then from then on, I proceeded to tell him that, I'm a Christian as well, and I listen to Humble Beast artists. And from there, we connected. I remember we walked out the library, and then he was sharing with me that he's a rap artist as well. And then I was sharing with him that I'm a rap artist, and we just had this conversation. And then he sent me some of his music, actually. He gave me his contact info. He gave me a link. And then I remember going home, and I think the song was Beautiful Struggle, the first song I heard from him. And that's when I realized that this guy is, he's legit. This guy could really rap, and he was serious about his craft. And not only that, but just his creativity and his depth of music. There was so much depth in it. And it goes with his name, Too Deep, for God's grace. And it's, that was just my introduction to him as an artist. And from then on, I learned a whole lot just working with him as well. We started talking about collaborating on something, and the first thing he had a beat that he showed me actually, and I heard the beat and I was feeling it, so I said, you know what, I think this is something I could jump onto. We decided on a song called Trapped Behind Bars, and the way he thinks there's obviously so much more to just being trapped behind bars, or just so much about the song was about rappers under bars and lies and how they could get trapped behind their own bars, and it was just all this wordplay, but the song was really cool and really deep. And we got together and we did it, then we recorded it, and we even made a video for it, which was cool. That was my first music video, so it was good just being in that space because I got to watch him and how he worked with his cameraman, and just seeing his creativity with how we shot the video. We went to this record store, and he knew the people at the record store, so they let us use the record store, and then it was just really cool, all the different shots we took for that video. So that was the first track. The second thing we worked on was called Hope Dealers Anonymous, which was a song based on, I think it was Pusha T's instrumental, Hope Dealers, or something like that. Anyway, so the song was just called Hope Dealers, and it was about how we want to give hope, we want to spread hope in our message to people. And we put that track together. I remember I wrote it, I think it took me a few weeks or whatnot, and then he wrote his verse, and we got together at one of his friend's house, and we went there, we recorded it, and we put that one out too. And obviously, with Too Deep, he's very creative, not only musically, but design. Like, he designed all the artwork and stuff for social media and stuff like that. So that was the two projects we worked on. It wasn't only about music, it wasn't only about rap. I feel like during this time we actually became friends, and we actually became brothers in Christ, of course. And it got to a point where we were just real with each other. And I remember that's something about him. He's just very real and honest, and he shared his story with me, just from him coming from Ghana, where he lived, and then being in Toronto, and just the struggles and the hardships, but also the good stuff as well, of course. But I just remembering him being so real and just so open with me, and it just showed me that when it comes to God and his relationship with him, that's always number one. That's always his main purpose in everything he does. That's a lens he looks through. Even in his music, it all comes back down to God. And if you listen to his music, it's very soulful. Whatever you're hearing on the tracks, that's who he is. That's what he's living out every day. And it was great to just know him on that level.
While in Canada, I remember my landlord, Harry. He was like a father to me. Harry was so good. Likewise, my neighbor, my roommate, Fabrice. Fabrice was also from South Africa. My landlord, Harry, was from Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, the two of them were like a few of the true family I had. I also remember Auntie Trudy, with whom we've been family friends from Ghana. Auntie Trudy and her family, her husband, Uncle Phil, Mr. Phil Alalibo, who was actually a lecturer at my school, but on another campus. Yeah, I remember I had some good times with Auntie Trudy Alalibo's husband, Uncle Phil Alalibo. He used to tell me about when he was young and when he was a DJ and all those fun times. And he also used to encourage me every time. He used to tell me about how good I was with regards to the music, and that I should never sleep on the talent, and I shouldn't sleep on the talent, and I should take it very serious because it was like a true gift and a blessing. Yo, I could never forget my brother Brandon of the Caribbean background. We were colleagues in class at Centennial College. Brandon has been a brother. He understood my pain and my struggles so much. He was there for me. God bless you, Brandon. Yeah, my godmother. God bless you too, Auntie Pat. Yeah. I remember when I was about to graduate from Centennial College, my dad and mom were granted the Canadian visas. They were granted Canadian visas. Unfortunately, because of mom's health condition, she couldn't make it. That was so unfortunate, and that was another emotional time for me, because throughout my journey, I remember from graduating at KNUST, because of mom's health, she couldn't be present. Graduating in Canada, because of her health, she couldn't make the journey. During my wedding, mommy couldn't be there. It's been a beautiful struggle. However, one very emotional time that was so significant and memorable to me while I was in Canada, mommy visited the US and I got to spend 1 week with her. I traveled from Canada to the US to spend 1 week with her at our family friend's place, the Oforis, Auntie Doris and Pastor Frank Ofori. Yeah, it was a very emotional time for me. I got to see mommy for 1 week. It cut me so deep because around that time, she hadn't got the Canadian visa yet. That was way before I graduated from Centennial College. Other than that, she would have actually come over to Canada and spend time with me where I was. And obviously some jollof rice could go on and things, you know. But it's all good. It's been a tough experience, especially being the only child and not having siblings. I feel like God gives a special grace to everyone. According to the wilderness he allows them to go through, all to his glory eventually. And I feel like I've been granted that special grace for a reason, because he has called me for a purpose, and I'm supposed to be able to go through that wilderness so that when I stand to speak to people, to testify about the Lord's goodness, it will resonate with a lot of people and they will have reason to trust in the Lord's faithfulness. Yeah. I remember Richard Barry Kusi always encouraged me and uplifted my spirit by telling me some way, somehow, I have no idea the great destiny God had set ahead of me, because it's like every time I face setbacks, trials, and tough situations, it's like my attitude in those times, like my attitude during those times is so encouraging and uplifting. Another huge setback I faced somewhere in 2012. I had traveled to Europe with my dad, who then went to preach in some churches in London, in Wales, Ireland. I escorted him. I had the opportunity to minister in churches in Wales, in London, in Ireland. I ministered in those churches. That same year, I filmed a sort of documentary on that trip. And unfortunately, coming back home after the trip, I lost my 2 external hard drives, which had all those content on there. It was a very painful experience. Around the same time, years prior to that trip, I had been planning a major album, Misunderstood Deep. I don't know if some of my music followers would remember, and a few friends. I had been planning that album, and for those who know me, with regards to music, because I write based on real life experiences which occur, all those things had been documented ahead of time. And unfortunately, the walls came crashing down in 2012. I lost everything on those 2 external hard drives, which were misplaced at the airport. They got lost. I couldn't retrieve them some way, somehow. And everything that was supposed to be on that album was also lost, unfortunately. By the grace of God, apart from some of the few places in Europe, London, Wales, Ireland, where I have ministered by God's grace, including where I've ministered by God's grace, the God's Urban Disciples debut album, the God's Urban Disciples album, Time Is Up, the music CDs, the album CDs were also sold in some places in the US, and then all these places in Europe as well, by the grace of God. Yeah, so it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a beautiful journey, yeah. But it's all good. Every time I went through these setbacks and pitfalls, I bounced back harder by God's grace. Yo, Marcus Wiles, I will never forget you, bro. You've been a blessing, man. Through the tough times, man. You've been always encouraging me, bro. Like, and you always believed in me when I don't even believe myself, and when I doubt myself. You always push me to the limit to try and look for other alternatives and ways, positive ways out of every situation I find myself in. Brother Emmanuel Sapon, your mother, your entire family, you guys were a blessing to me. My brother Emmanuel Techi, with whom I attended KNUST, yo, God bless you so much, man. I really appreciate you, bro. Sabi Dave, Christ Image, my auntie Lizzie Oye, my auntie Ajwa, Jemfi, yo, Limbisky from KNUST. Yo, you were there for me, man, bro. I really appreciate you. I love you guys so much. Yo, my brother Aris Keys, man. Yo, you have also been a blessing. Jeffrey Osetutu, JOT Photography. I really appreciate you making time off your busy schedule when you came to Canada to come and visit me. Another family that were a blessing to me were the Oponwedus. And then also the Chachus, Auntie Pat and her family, Auntie Josephine, Auntie Joe and her family, Reverend Eric Amwa, you've also been a great blessing to me, and I really appreciate you. Oh, my brother Frederick Sapo and his family, his sibling, Ben Obing, my bigger brother, and his family, they were also a blessing to me. Yeah, I really appreciate them. So, this path I chose, Volume 3, was not fully completed as a body of work. However, a few projects on there I managed to record a few projects on there, being the likes of Beautiful Struggle, which I did with my brother Exi Clay back then, who is now known as Bubune, Trapped Behind Bars, which I did with my brother Stu Escalone. Yeah, and the intro, this path I chose, Volume 3, the intro, and yeah, a few other tracks, a few other joints on there. In a way, because of the setbacks, the many setbacks I went through in Canada, I must say this path I chose, Chapter 3, could not really be completed because of the setbacks, but it's all good. All things work together for good to those who love the Lord. Yeah. So yeah, the need came that I really had to move back home, because it got to a point I was so afraid I might not get to spend time with my mom before she's called to glory. So I had to forfeit everything and come back home. Moving back home, I started my clothing and apparel brand, Urban Cognitive. By the grace of God, Florence and I got married, after which Mommy passed. I remember during the wedding, after we completed the marriage ceremony, later in the evening, because obviously Mommy was still at the hospital. She was hospitalized by then. That night, as emotional as it was, we had to go and spend time with Mommy at the hospital. I really miss my mom, you know? Yeah, Florence and I went to spend time at the hospital with Mommy. After we got married, unfortunately, we couldn't get to have a honeymoon. We had to sacrifice our honeymoon because Mommy was not too well. So we had to move in and spend time with her at home after she had been discharged. Eventually, when her health got quite okay, we moved to our matrimonial home, and shortly after mommy got called to rest in glory. Yeah, man. Yeah, this is very emotional for me. I'm trying not to hold it in. Yeah.
Julian is my brother-in-law. His wife Nana is my sister. Yeah, and I got to meet him through Nana. At first, they were friends, and sometimes in a conversation, his name would come up. So that's how I got to know TDIGG. Yeah, and then when they started seeing each other, I got to meet him in person. Back in the day, I think around 2010, yeah, I heard some of his songs, and since then, like, there hasn't been anything. So I'm really, really looking forward to this project. I'm expecting so much, a lot of impact, great content, because a lot of things have happened since 2010. So many things. It's been 10 years. And in the space of 10 years, he's gotten married, he's now a father, he has new family and all. So yeah, I'm expecting great things from this album. Julian is a creative person, as I know him. He's talented in the arts, in music, in design, everything.
I realized that unfortunately his mom was in ill health. So that made me realize how much Julian was actually going through, and also I was surprised at the fact that he seemed like a very positive person, and he was very bubbly, and he sort of like gave vibes and everything. So I was like, okay, wow, I didn't know your mom was going through all this, and as such I didn't know you also were going through this much. Yeah, but through it all, I would say that I'm grateful for the kind of person I've known him to be, because even when he's going through stuff, he's there for you, and he wants to uplift your spirit and still encourage you. So just that bit of knowing about his mom's condition just really made me have so much respect for him. Forward, after making the decision to get married, obviously we become family already. The time comes for us to get married, and unfortunately, even though she had been part of the preparations from the beginning, she wasn't able to be part of the wedding. She wasn't able to attend the wedding, and that was sad. Like, we didn't know how to go about it. I was hoping Julian would be okay. I was hoping he would be happy. I was hoping it wouldn't affect him so much. Thankfully, we had a good wedding. Everything was bright and beautiful. And then at the end of the day, we had to actually close early. Anybody who was at our wedding would remember that we finished everything quite early. Everything had to end quickly. We had planned to go to the hospital to spend part of the day with Mama Precious because she couldn't be at the wedding. So that's what we did. We went to the hospital, we spent some time with her, together with Daddy Basie, to just make her feel part of the day. So that's how we spent our wedding day. So we were there with her for a while, and then we went home to rest.
I'm very grateful to God, actually, because Florence is a true keeper, man. I won't even lie. Like, she's a true keeper, and she's funny. Like, she's very silly. Like, we have a very silly, like, very, very hilarious moments. Like, she's one of the few in my life, like, who actually find everything I do funny. And low-key, just like my brother Decorus, like, he already be gone laughing so hard, like, before I even try to even make you laugh. Like, and I think they can relate. It's just this chemistry between all of us. Like, I know I'm a very silly person. I know I'm a very hilarious person. And oftentimes, I feel like human beings are so stuck up in life. Like, we are always stiff about life. Like, we just have to loosen up. Like, to an extent, I really don't care. Especially with people who think, I seem to be frivolous. because I feel like life is already stressful. You have to really loosen up and make the best of life. Like, see the good in every situation, every moment. Yeah, but yeah, on the real though, Florence is a good woman. Florence is a very good woman. She really vibes with me. She understands me, and I feel really blessed with her. Yeah, I feel really blessed with her. She actually scrutinizes like my lyrics, like my bars. Like, we go back to back, like scrutinizing my bars. She understands my bars. Like, yo, she's one of the few ladies who understand like the art of rap and the lyrical art form. And I'm so blessed to have her in my life, honestly, man. Yeah, Florence is just good vibes.
Yeah, so fast forward, Eden arrives. Eden, like we have a beautiful baby girl, and then like she's everything. For Julian, it was a bittersweet experience because he was very excited. At the same time, he was like, oh, if only mommy was here to see her granddaughter. So that was a bit emotional as well for him and for all of us, you know. Yeah, but yeah, Eden is such a blessing, and yeah, she's been a bundle of joy ever since she arrived.
Eden is another person altogether. Like, she's just got a very good sense of humor. I can't wait for her to actually grow up and see how she would react, you know, to all these sorts of things that we have going on at home. But yeah, I'm blessed. Like, I'm a happy father. I have a happy home, and I'm grateful to God. I couldn't be more grateful. God is faithful. He's been good. He's been good to me. He's been good to me. Yeah, God is faithful, man.
Yeah, so Julian has actually got a very good sense of humor. Like, he makes us laugh all the time. He's bubbly. Yeah, like there's no dull moment around him. He just wants to make sure like everybody is happy and in a good mood all the time. Every time, babe, you okay? Like, you know, he's just trying to make like things liven up every time. And sometimes even when he's not around, you just remember something he did. It's so ridiculous. Like, you just remember you're on the floor. Even Eden sometimes just laughs on her own, and I know it's something Julian did. Yeah, he's just a very funny, loving person. Yeah.
When Eden was born, it was a bittersweet experience for me because here was mommy, who had been called to rest in glory, shortly after which Eden was also born. So you can imagine it was that banter between death and life. Yeah, but I still give God the glory, and I still continue to trust His faithfulness. Yeah, He's been with me throughout the journey. Yeah, it's been good, bad, and ugly times, and I give Him the glory for all that still.
Yeah, Julian as a person has gone through so much in life. And we as a family, we've seen a lot in life, ups and downs. And I believe that over the 10-year period, since he released his first album called This Part I Chose, the first one that is coming up called Through It All, or titled Through It All, I believe that it's going to be very relevant to this time because of the things he's been through. The content, I believe, will be one that society, the masses, and people at large will begin to realize that it really enriches their lives. It will advise, it will counsel, it will admonish, and it will bring hope to people who need hope in life.
From my personal experience going through my wilderness, one thing I've significantly realized is if you are specifically called for a higher purpose, to impact lives to the glory of God, God deliberately allows you to go through certain challenges and obstacles to test your faith. And for your information, whenever you go through that wilderness and you get out refined, the only reward you get is a tougher or a more tough obstacle. And that's all meant to build your faith even more. From my personal experience, from my walk, my personal walk, if you're a Christian and you don't go through attacks, then trust me, you're probably not doing something right as far as your walk with God is concerned. Yeah, because it's not supposed to be an easy journey. Yeah, the straight and narrow path is not supposed to be an easy journey. Take this from me.
Yeah, I'm still steadily treading on this path I chose without regretting. Regardless of the rough times, ain't no second guessing. Keeping my eyes on the prize, hope you get the message. Doing it for His glory alone, I'm never selfish. Constantly preaching salvation over damnation. Proclamation of the good news, that's my obligation. On this lonely road, yeah, just my acclamation. Telling the lost souls there is no condemnation. To those now in Christ Jesus, that's the gospel.